Transform your diet after 60. Discover the 4 shocking carbs to avoid and 4 amazing ones to embrace. Martha sat at the kitchen table, her laptop open to a flashy article promising life-changing dietary revelations. She was on the cusp of 65, staring down a future where health had begun to feel like a luxury. Her husband's passing felt fresh, and with every indulgent bite of comfort food, she sensed her vitality slipping away. Chocolate cake, fried chicken, all those family recipes tasting of nostalgia now weighed on her conscience like a lead balloon. She felt the pull of independence after 2 years of mourning, yet a shadow loomed over her. She had to set an example for her kids and grandkids, not one of passive decline, but of vibrant living. She felt emboldened, ready to take the plunge, but a nagging whisper in the back of her mind echoed the judgment she often sensed from society about aging, that older adults should settle into their fates, not shake things up. Her friend's recent heart troubles were a shocking wake-up call, a reminder that comfort food could come with a heavy price. Yet the thought of stepping into the world of kale salads and whole grains felt alien, daunting. Was she really ready to embark on this culinary crusade? Determination simmered within her as she entered the local grocery store, overwhelmed by fluorescent lights and aisles filled with processed foods wrapped in colorful packaging. Martha's heart raced with each step she took, glancing at ingredients she barely understood: high-fructose corn syrup, sodium, preservatives. With each item pushed into her cart, she wrestled with guilt. Would her decision to shift gears disrupt the family's cherished traditions, the ease of quick, familiar meals? What would her children think? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With each nutrition class, Martha faced whispers of disbelief, questions of her sanity. Could someone her age really change? Every lecture felt like a rebuke of her previous life, yet part of her was drawn to the idea of transformation. Her children rallied behind her, a surprising twist that ignited both gratitude and apprehension. Would they truly support her newfound intentions, or would they resent the disruption of family gatherings she loved so dearly? The family barbecue loomed large on the horizon, and in that moment of rare enthusiasm, Martha decided to share her journey of change with her relatives. She envisioned their reactions, applause, nods of understanding, but as everyone crowded around the grill, anticipation turned sour. Instead of acceptance, she faced a barrage of resistance and simmering anger. "Why do you want to ruin our traditions?" a voice yelled. The table fell silent, tension so thick it choked her. Suddenly, her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Who was she to challenge decades of practices? Doubt washed over her like a cold wave, but she stood tall, fueled by a fervent yearning for vitality, not just for herself, but for her entire family. "I'm not here to ruin anything. I'm here to open us to new possibilities," she cried, her words slicing through the thick air. Martha's insides churned, emotions colliding. The barbecue had morphed into a battlefield where values clashed, and the stakes had never felt higher. Would her plea for healthy choices be the catalyst for a familial reckoning, or would it sever the delicate connections she strived to preserve? As their voices rose, Martha's mind raced, hunger for support mixing with dread over the potential fallout. The air crackled with unresolved feelings, leaving her teetering on the precipice of change. Martha's eyes darted around the table, feeling the weight of unyielding stares. Each face reflected a mixture of disbelief, anger, and confusion. For a moment, she felt herself shrinking inward, the courage she'd mustered beginning to dissolve amidst the tension. "I thought you'd understand," she whispered, her voice barely carrying over the simmering discord. Then came the unexpected voice of her eldest son, Thomas, his brow furrowed. "Mom, we've always done things this way. Why change now?" It was a question that struck at her core. What did it mean to adhere to tradition if her health and possibly her life depended on making new choices? The fragility of life resonated deep within her, with her own pursuing path laid out in front of her like a map she dared to follow. Martha inhaled sharply, steeling herself against the tide of familial loyalty that threatened to drown her resolve. "Because I want more years with you all. I want those years to be filled with vitality, laughter, and adventures, not just sitting around reminiscing about the good old days," she asserted, her conviction rising. The air remained heavy as silence reigned, echoes of past gatherings now entangled with her plea. Would risking their cherished family rituals for a bowl of quinoa and a side of roasted Brussels sprouts truly be worth it? But within that turmoil, an ember of hope flickered. What if they could adapt? As the barbecue raged on, scents of grilled chicken and smoky burgers wafted around her, an aroma steeped in heritage and rich memories. But now she felt a fresh force within her, the prospect of reimagining culinary traditions rather than abandoning them altogether. Perhaps they could sit at the table, enjoy the flavors, and still incorporate healthier options.
"Martha, you're being selfish," another voice cut sharply, and suddenly old wounds gaped open. Buried disagreements reared their ugly heads. Internal battles shifted from food to underlying resentments and unmet expectations. Selfish? The word clawed at her. She had spent years dedicated to her family, but how could she prioritize their comfort over her health? No longer did she wish to mute her need for change. "I am not selfish for wanting to live another decade or two with you all," she retorted, this time firmly, grasping the edge of the table as if to ground herself in the chaos. The discussion turned into a raucous debate, feelings spilling over like an uncontained pot. Each member of her family voiced opinions fueled by fear, the fear of loss, of change. Yet, amidst the noise, thoughts of her late husband surfaced. He had always been proud of her tenacity. This memory solidified her spirit. She had to press on. "Let's try it together," she proposed, a softer edge to her voice. "Next week, let me cook a healthy meal for us all. If you're really concerned about traditions, let's adapt them. We can make this a family challenge to eat better and feel better." In that moment, Montana felt something shift. Faces that had once set like stone now held curious glances, doubts mingling with curiosity. Perhaps they might explore this new culinary landscape together. Then came a pause, a moment of reflection. She observed her children weighing the balance of comfort and change. Would they embrace her plea? Shivers of doubt rippled through her, yet she pushed forward. Holding her breath, she awaited their response. Would they come to understand her metamorphosis as a journey not only for her, but for the family as a whole? As murmurs of agreement flickered like a flame in the chilly air, Martha felt a cautious optimism blossom, setting the stage for a confrontation that moved beyond food and rooted itself in their lives. The playing field was shifting, albeit slowly. New tables would need to be carved out, new traditions forged. This newfound strategy ignited a spark within Martha, yet uncertainty lingered, fueling the growing tension. Accepting change wasn't solely personal, it was collective. How would she nurture this budding resolve? And as the stakes rose, Martha's heart raced. This was only the beginning. What about those who actively resisted this evolution? The time had come to face conflicts that threatened her vision of a vibrant life, both within herself and among her family. Would she find the strength to secure that future, or would resistance extinguish her transformation before it truly began? The week leading up to her proposed meal felt both electric and ominous for Martha. Each day was a mixture of anticipation and self-doubt. As she pondered the responses of her family, a relentless inner dialogue churned within her. What if they didn't take her seriously? What if they refused to even be open-minded about her vision for healthier family meals? The idea that her very initiative could either bond them or exacerbate the existing fractures filled her with anxiety. Cooking had always been a refuge, but now it felt like a battleground. Martha spent long hours researching nutritious recipes that promised flavor without sacrifice. Quinoa and Brussels sprouts were just the beginning. She delved into vibrant vegetable stir-fries, hearty lentil soups, and revitalizing smoothies that could replace their traditional comfort foods. Each dish became a metaphor for her struggles, an opportunity to inspire change while adorning the plates of those she loved most. With her meals on her mind, she also had another hurdle, convincing her family to actually participate. Should she leave them to their devices, content with grilling burgers and skewers,
or create a culinary battle for health and habit. The indecision gnawed at her, leading her back to the table where she would face them again. The night of the meal, Martha moved through her kitchen with focused intent, each action imbued with purpose. As she chopped vegetables and simmered spices, her mind replayed the various conversations she'd had during their last family gathering. She envisioned Thomas's brow furrowed in confusion, the sharp sting of her sister's accusation of selfishness, and the eventual flicker of curiosity as her children regarded her proposition. In the midst of chopping kale, Martha took a breath to steady herself. Was she leading them into chaos, or was this the gateway to deeper connections? With every sauté and simmer, she sensed the transformative power of food merge with her personal quest for health. For the first time in years, her heart swelled with not just determination, but the unwavering belief that she was making the right choice. As she plated the dishes, she made sure that each one was both aesthetic and inviting. Would they taste the love and effort woven into the fibers of every grain and leaf? She hoped. As the clock ticked down, anxiety coiled tightly within her chest like a vice. Would they come to this table with openness or defensiveness? When the moment finally arrived, her family gathered around the table, their faces a mixture of trepidation and intrigue. The aromas wafting from the kitchen were enticing, even to those who had initially scoffed at her ideas. As she served her carefully crafted meals, Martha felt the buoyancy of hope and trepidation mix within her, lifting her spirit even as she braced for their reactions. "Here's to new beginnings," she said, raising her glass in a toast, the sound of clinking glass resonating a sense of unity in the air. But as they dug into their dishes, she read the faces of her family. Each mouthful met with varied reactions: surprise, hesitance, a few smirks, and a glimpse of something that might have been excitement.
As Thomas swallowed a mouthful of quinoa salad, Martha's heart thudded in her chest. Would he offer a compliment or shake his head in dismay? In that moment, she realized that this wasn't just about the food. It was about a collective reckoning with change. Yet their faces still held tight masks of apprehension, and Martha felt the pressure mounting. "Tell me what you think," she encouraged, her voice steadier than her heartbeat. And then, as each family member spoke, sharing their opinions and reactions, she observed the subtle shifts in their responses, curiosity peeking through skepticism. Little by little, barriers began to break. Amidst the spirited jabs of laughter and playful challenges, Martha sensed the ground shifting beneath her feet. Change was neither easy nor gentle, but was it possible? The dishes served as more than sustenance. They ignited discussions that spanned nutrition, memories, and identity, helming something much grander than simply what filled their plates. Yet as her son, Thomas, began to speak about alternative ways to enjoy healthier meals, the glint of realization sparked something within her. There were those who would resist, upset by the unfamiliarity of it all. Bracing for the potential conflicts ahead, she steeled herself. The journey had broadened, but not without additional bumps along the way. Could these small victories at the dinner table lay the groundwork for larger transformations in their lives? Or might the deeper conflicts lurking in her family's dynamics rise to the surface, threatening to dismantle her hopes? Both enthusiasm and uncertainty mingled in the air, leaving Martha tangled in thought. The table had emerged as a new battlefield, one where feelings, traditions, and stubbornness would clash, waiting to be resolved. She was ready, but was her family? The weight of uncertainty loomed as the night unfolded into uncharted territory. As she faced her family, she understood. Real transformation requires more than new recipes. It demands authenticity, confrontation, and unity. How would they navigate the deeper waters of change? Would her resolve endure, or would opposition threaten to dismantle her effort before it truly began? As the initial reactions from her family swirled around the table, Martha sensed a palpable shift in the air. The curiosity in their eyes, once clouded with skepticism, began to reveal a glimmer of interest. Yet, as moments passed, anxiety gripped her anew. It was not the culinary critique she feared, but the profound realization that change was never merely about food. It was about confronting established norms and personal vulnerabilities. Thomas, summoned by the vibrant smells to take a bite of her kale and quinoa bowl, hesitated momentarily. She caught the slight wrinkle of his brow, a protective instinct flaring up, obscuring the tentative enthusiasm she had hoped for. "Mom, this is different," he finally said, his voice a mix of surprise and uncertainty.
"Different is good,"
she replied, keeping her tone light but pushing against the stab of doubt that accompanied his words. It was a small victory, yet her heart raced as though she were clenching on to a tiny sliver of hope. As conversations flowed, Martha noticed their dialogue unfolding organically. Her sister Lisa challenged her with pointed questions about the why behind these choices. "What's wrong with how we eat now? Are we really that unhealthy?" There was an edge to her words that set Martha on alert. It felt almost defensive, as if her intentions were under siege. Martha's throat parched at the challenge. "This isn't about blame, Lisa. It's about embracing options that make us feel good. I care about our health, about connecting with each other in a way that feeds our bodies and our bonds." The words tumbled forth, wrapped in veiled urgency. She watched her family grapple with her explanations. Each response birthed a fracture she felt compelled to mend. "I want to share something that fuels our happiness," she continued, conscious of not overstepping, but desperate to keep their dialogue opening. As laughter interspersed the seriousness of the conversation, the dynamic lightened. Awkward tension faded, like steam evaporating from her freshly plated dishes. The clinking of forks became a soundtrack to an evolving narrative, a cacophony of hesitant acceptance mingled with nostalgia. Conversations transitioned from critiques to shared anecdotes about meals past, the family barbecues where they had channeled the same ambitions of connection through comfort food. It became clear that Martha was facing a deeper undercurrent, rooted in how they defined togetherness through familiar culinary comforts. Thomas, emboldened by the stories circulating around the table, raised his own concerns among laughter. What if we don't have to give up burgers entirely? What if we take turns planning meals? Incorporate some of this healthy stuff into our weekend grill-outs. The idea swirled among them, an invitation to a collaborative spirit that felt unexpected. Martha's heart swelled with a warmth she wished to nurture. She would have to approach this transformation not just as a directive, but as a partnership, one that allowed space for her family to craft their own narratives within her vision. As plates emptied and voices rose in challenge and encouragement alike, Martha carefully navigated through doubts resurfacing in her mind. What if they veered off course? What if her efforts weren't enough? Each question loomed like smoke, hazing her clarity. The thoughts tussled violently within her, but she steeled her resolve, acknowledging these fears as part of the process. "New choices don't mean giving up what we love," she countered, choosing to look at each family member. "It means evolving how we love. But can we really see this through together?" Listening closely, she witnessed their expressions morph, encoding questions and possibilities.
Yet the deeper murmurs of family history lingered. The reluctance that felt inscribed into their identities began to overshadow her hope. Not everyone was ready to sail toward new horizons, and uncertainty thickened once again, muffling the vibrant exchanges with the weight of introspection. Would her family embrace this reconceptualization of nourishment, or was it a step too far? Martha braced herself, because she knew this dialogue was only the start of her transformative quest, and thin threads of connection could fray just as easily. A tumultuous mix of excitement and apprehension built within her. The real test would be in maintaining this momentum, forging ahead into the discussions that lay ahead, woven intrinsically with unresolved feelings and buried tensions. As the meal concluded, the question hung in the air. Were they truly ready to redefine their family traditions? Would their new path lead to healing or deeper division? Martha's heart pounded as the evening closed. The night felt long, the answers elusive, and she realized that this wasn't just about food. It was an unveiling of truths and emotional landscapes. The next challenge awaited. She needed to confront the unspoken fears that muted their progress, but was she prepared to face the emotional whirlpool swirling beneath the surface? Martha awoke the next morning with a swirling mixture of feelings churning in her stomach. Last night's conversation had unlocked something in her, a dormant resolve, a desire to push boundaries, and yet apprehension weighed heavily on her shoulders. While the idea of transforming their meals excited her, the thought of confronting the deeper issues lurking beneath her family's food traditions felt overwhelming. Determined to begin unearthing those issues, she started her day not with the usual scrambled eggs, but with a nourishing smoothie filled with greens, fruits, and seeds. As she blended the ingredients, the rhythmic whir of the blender became a mantra, inviting clarity in chaos. With the vibrant green concoction poured into her favorite mason jar, she settled at the kitchen table, taking a moment to breathe and reflect. She began jotting down her thoughts. Ideas flowed about each family member's eating habits and preferences, scattering words across the page. Comfort, joy, resistance, memory. How could she shape a new narrative from these words?
As she scribbled, revelations surfaced. Her family's emotional ties to food ran deep, tied intricately to their traditions, memories, and identities. Flipping the page, she wrote down possible strategies to address these feelings as well. Leading that discussion would require grace and understanding. Whatever pain and resistance her family felt were not theirs alone. They were interwoven with her own fears of inadequacy as a mother, who sought to guide them toward healthier paths. With her plan beginning to form, a new wave of determination surged through her.
She envisioned family discussions that didn't just revolve around food, but also delved into their meanings, stories from their past. Perhaps sharing those tales could forge deeper connections and ease the tension around changing family dynamics. Would emphasizing the narrative element help ease any resentment? Martha decided the next step must occur even before they gathered again. She would spend time reflecting on her own food memories. She would confront her hesitation and reaffirm her commitment. Determining how her past shaped her relationship with food could serve as a bridge towards understanding their connections. As the days passed, Martha began documenting moments tied to her culinary journey. Her grandmother's famous chocolate chip cookies, her father's penchant for barbecue, and moments spent cooking with each family member. Each memory was a thread woven into the fabric of their lives, a testament to shared love and history. That evening, she invited Thomas to join her in creating a family meal plan. Together, they would instill elements of health while retaining familiar comforts. The kitchen turned into a vibrant space of brainstorming, color, and laughter. They took turns suggesting healthier spins on their favorite dishes, evolving their traditions rather than uprooting them. Thomas's enthusiasm ignited new ideas, making the task feel collaborative and less daunting for Martha. However, as they breathlessly completed their planning, glimmers of doubt pierced through her exhilaration. This engagement was one step, but what lay ahead? How would Lisa respond to their changes? Would she retreat further into her comfort zone, or could the unrecognized need for family healing bring her on board? Martha felt the tightening in her chest again, the need to confront the obstacles, to dismantle any imposition. She marveled at how the cuisine transformation evolved from an idea into a question of emotional heritage. The week drew to a close, and she set a date for their next family meal, gathering all previous tensions around the table. As each member received her invitation, uncertainty gnawed her. This was still uncharted territory, a place that could lead to friction, or worse, could unearth unresolved conflicts. Martha found herself at a precipice where personal strength and vulnerability would coalesce to shape a new path. The very thought ignited hope entwined with anxiety. Would this exploration of their food heritage propel her family towards collective growth, or would it spiral into confrontation and division? Her breath quickened as the date approached, facing the fears that accompanied her mission now loomed closer. The conversation that could redefine their family dynamically ahead. Little by little, she gathered her courage to offer an authentic part of herself, but the question remained, could her family handle the emotional truths that awaited them at the dinner table, or would they crumble under the weight of tradition?
With anticipation building, Martha steeled herself for the answers that might finally uncover the heart of their family ties. Martha spent the day leading up to the family meal grappling with her anxiety. Each tick of the clock echoed louder in her mind, drawing her attention to the tight knot of nerves in her stomach. Doubts fluttered like errant butterflies. Were her preparations sufficient? Had she centered their emotions enough to guide the conversation toward healing? The past week had imbued her with purpose, yet the weight of what lay ahead threatened to crush that resolve. In between tasks, she revisited her notes, her heart pounding with each line she read. Comfort, joy, and memory transformed into anchors weighing her down. How could such nostalgic sentiments cloak fear of change? Martha tapped her pen against the notepad, finding herself staring at the words as though they were foreign invaders. Finally, she made the decision to channel her jitters into action. Martha stepped into the kitchen. Scents of spices, sautéed vegetables, and simmering sauces blended seamlessly as she laid out an array of dishes. The clatter of pots and pans became her rhythm, calming her racing thoughts. Cooking felt familiar, a grounding force amidst the storm of uncertainty swirling in her heart. Yet, as she stirred the sauce, her mind spiraled into concern. Lisa would arrive soon, and Martha pressed her lips together at the thought of inviting confrontation with the estranged daughter. Would she dismiss the meal altogether? Would she express her ire for a shift she had never asked for? The burden of expectation bore down on her like a heavy shroud. Dinner drew closer, and Martha found herself standing still at the counter, a momentary panic overwhelming her. Her plans felt inadequate. Could a simple meal pave the way for deeper conversations? Could it serve as a medium for love and resentment to coexist, or would it crack their foundation further? Just then, Thomas walked in with a bright smile and a bouquet of flowers. For the table, he said, beaming with the innocence of untainted optimism. Martha took the flowers, their vibrant colors contrasting sharply against her bleak trepidation. His enthusiasm felt like a lifeline, yet even his presence couldn't dispel the shadows lurking within her mind.
"Do you think Lisa will understand what we're trying to do here?" she asked, her voice wavering as she arranged the blooms in a vase. "Honestly, I think this could be a good experience. No matter her reaction, it's the sharing that matters," he replied, the confidence in his words anchoring her. She took a moment to absorb his perspective. His understanding shed light on a critical truth. Transformation often invited discomfort, and it was their connection, their willingness to embrace vulnerability that rendered it possible. Perhaps sharing the roots of their culinary traditions could be an act of love rather than an effort to impose change.
As the clock approached the designated mealtime, tension stuttered through the house. The table, set with care, sparkled under soft illumination. Their shared meal not only represented her family's history, it symbolized a beacon of hope, urging them to make room for evolution. The doorbell rang, puncturing the silence with a jolt. Heart racing, Martha exchanged glances with Thomas, who nodded encouragingly. She inhaled deeply, steadying herself before crossing the threshold to the front door. Lisa stood there, hesitance mingled with resolve etched across her features, ready to either embrace or resist. "Hey," she said quietly, her eyes flitting toward the kitchen. "Come in," Martha managed to reply, both hope and trepidation mingling in an intricate dance as she ushered her daughter inside. As Lisa crossed the threshold, a whirlwind of emotion swelled around them. Martha squared her shoulders, armed with the knowledge that this could mark a pivotal moment, not just within their meal, but in their entire relationship. "How about some dinner?" she offered, striving for casual warmth, while glancing at the table, laden with the fruits of their labor and care. "This one's going to be different, isn't it?" Lisa replied, words tinged with uncertainty. The question, heavy with implication, hung in the air, mingling with the aroma of the dishes. Martha's heart thudded, recognizing the potency of the moment. They were teetering on the edge of renewal, each facet of their dinner reflecting the emotional terrain they must navigate together. Could they engage in this dance of honesty and acceptance, or would they stumble back into the old routines that had long strayed from their hearts? Martha prepared herself for the answer that might unveil not only their shared histories, but also the potential for transforming their futures. Would this meal serve as a launch pad into a new dawn, or would it crumble under the weight of unspoken truths? Martha's breath caught in her throat as the weight of Lisa's question lingered, pulling taut the threads of shared memories and unresolved tensions. The round table, central and inviting, transformed into a battleground, but also a platform for much-needed dialogue. She dared not turn back now. The moment had arrived. "Different," she echoed softly, hoping the trembling in her voice would land on an understanding note rather than one of defensiveness. It was the uncharted territory they must navigate together, a landscape rich with potential, but also hazardous with unspoken fears. The flicker of uncertainty in Lisa's eyes was palpable. Martha's heart raced, compelled to dissolve the tension. "I've made your favorite, lasagna, just like Grandma used to make. You remember?" The words spilled out in a rush, anxious yet tender, a strand of connection threaded through tradition. I remember," Lisa replied, her tone neutral, betraying nothing. A glimmer of recognition flashed, but doubt quickly shrouded it.
Martha's hands tightened around the edges of her apron. Would nostalgia be enough to bridge the chasm between them? "Let's sit down," she suggested, gesturing to the table that was meticulously arranged. As they moved to their seats, Martha set her shoulders, determined to foster an atmosphere of acceptance. Thomas joined them, radiating warmth as he poured sparkling water into glasses, the bubbles sparkling like the hope flickering within Martha. "I think you both will enjoy this," he said, raising his glass in a toast. "To family." "To family," Lisa echoed hesitantly, lifting her glass but with a faraway look in her eyes. As they began to serve the meal, the space between words felt charged with intention. Martha ladled the lasagna onto Lisa's plate, her heart racing with the urge to breach the silence. "I know things have been hard," she ventured, her throat tight with emotion, "but I hope we can talk through everything tonight." Lisa's fork paused, suspended in midair. "You mean like we always try and fail to do?" The sting of that remark pierced through Martha's defenses, but anger wasn't the answer. Instead, she inhaled deeply, determined to respond from a place of understanding rather than retaliating in kind. "We can learn from those failures," she said softly. "That's the goal tonight, to really connect." At the mention of connection, the air shifted slightly. Lisa's defenses seemed to waver. Her fork returned to the plate, moving through the layers of pasta with deliberate slowness. "Each time we try to talk, it ends in a fight, or silence. I'm not sure how to approach this differently. The determination repeated in Martha's mind. Change required not just hope, but action. What if we try a new approach? Instead of focusing on the things we can't resolve, let's share our experiences, our feelings, honestly. Maybe we could start with something good? Lisa looked up, searching her mother's face, as if passing through the layers of vulnerability that had lain dormant for too long. Something good? Yes, Martha pressed, her resolve growing stronger with each word. What's one cherished memory you have from our family dinners? Something that made you feel loved? Lisa hesitated, visibly torn. The flood of childhood memories crested at the shore of her mind, washing over her reluctance. I used to love those summer barbecues in the backyard, everyone together. What about them made you feel loved? The question hung in the air, and it became a gentle invitation for Lisa to share. It was less about Martha's expectations, and more about cultivating a space where Lisa could feel comfortable exploring her feelings without judgment. As Lisa began to speak, Martha felt a shift inside her. The heaviness in her heart lightened, allowing space for a flicker of hope. Perhaps this night could herald mutual understanding, a breakthrough in a long-standing conflict.
Yet, as the conversation unfolded, Martha sensed the currents below the surface, ready to surface. The emotional toll of years spent building walls threatened to destabilize their fragile connection. The deeper they delved into their past, the more urgent tension loomed between exhilaration and apprehension. Could this discussion lead to true healing, or would their histories remain too heavy to untangle? Martha leaned forward, ready to confront the layers of pain she had avoided for so long, a mix of hope and trepidation swirling within her. As Lisa raised her voice, suddenly charged with emotion, Martha braced herself to confront what lay ahead. Would this evening dissolve the barriers that had kept them apart, or would it reveal unhealed wounds that risked pushing them even further apart? Martha's heart thudded in her chest as Lisa's voice cut through the charged atmosphere, her emotions swirling like a torrent ready to burst. It felt like you never cared enough to know what I wanted. You cooked for me, but it was always your version of love, never mine. That raw honesty stung, but it was a reminder of how long they had tiptoed around the truth. Instead of recoiling from the accusation, Martha leaned into the moment, searching for clarity. I thought I was doing what was best for you, Lisa, but maybe I missed the mark. The admission hung in the air, coated with Martha's vulnerability. There was an echo of something they both recognized, the commitments to love that had gone unspoken for years, leaving gaping holes in the fabric of their relationship. Lisa's gaze faltered, hovering just above the table. It just always felt one-sided. You don't realize how isolating it was. Her voice cracked, resonating with a mixture of anger and sadness. Martha wrestled with those words, acknowledging the pain they carried. I want to change that. I want to understand you, to do it your way this time. Her sincerity poured out, carving a new path through the tension. Understanding isn't as simple as just saying you want to, Lisa replied, her tone more contemplative now. Hearing the shift, Martha sensed an opening. Then tell me. Help me understand what you needed from me. Share it with me, please. Lisa took a deep breath, as if gathering the strength to expose the raw nerves buried beneath years of misunderstanding. I didn't just want lasagna, Mom. I wanted you to ask me what I wanted, and I wanted us to find joy in making it together. The words were like tiny blades, cutting through Martha's heart, but also igniting a spark of self-awareness. Suddenly, the essence of the change that was often perched on the edge of her mind crystallized into focus. Avoidance had been a part of her strategy, and here lay an opportunity for radical transformation, not just for their relationship, but for herself. Each moment spent amidst those unspoken gaps had stolen from both of them.
I can learn to be better, she stated plainly, almost as if declaring a promise to herself. Let's get back to those summer barbecues you loved. I can help you with dinner plans and— No, Lisa interjected, panic flashing in her eyes. I don't want you to cook. I want us to find joy together. That's what will fix this. Martha paused, the weight of understanding crashing over her. It was more than food. It was about shared experience, collaboration, a rediscovery of their bond through mutual growth. I understand now, she finally managed, finding a steadiness within the revelation. It's about creating memories together, building a foundation of trust where we can express our own needs. Lisa seemed uncertain, but there was a flicker of hope behind the hesitation. You think we can do that? After everything? I believe we can, Martha replied, her confidence building. I'm ready to listen, to embrace the discomfort and grow from it. Let's explore this, together.
The two exchanged glances, bound by threads of shared determination. Lisa slowly nodded, vulnerability giving way to possibility. For the first time in years, Martha sensed the prospect of moving beyond mere survival mode into solidarity, the type of relationship she had yearned for. As they spoke more freely, each sharing pieces of their lives and dreams, Martha began to feel a tangible change. The ice thawed, revealing warmth beneath, a flicker of joy reminding her that transformation often required stepping through the fire of discomfort. But just as light pierced through the darkness of their past, a knock on the door suddenly jolted the atmosphere. Both women froze. The transformation momentarily paused, caught in a tense limbo between the hope of renewal and an unwelcome interruption. What if it's someone who brings more chaos? Martha thought, feeling her pulse quicken again. The fragile connection, just beginning to mend, now faced an unforeseen test. Would this new development help solidify their newfound commitment, or shatter the tentative trust they had started to rebuild? The knock on the door rang out like a tolling bell, shattering the atmosphere of vulnerability that had enveloped them moments before. Martha stood frozen, her heart racing at the prospect of what or who could disrupt this fragile moment of understanding. Lisa's uncertainty reflected back at her, the flicker of hope extinguished by the sudden reality check. Martha's instincts kicked in, the lifelong habit of shielding herself and her daughter from unpleasant surprises surfacing. "I'll get it," she said, trying to mask her trepidation behind a veneer of calm. But as she approached the door, doubt mingled with adrenaline. What if it was someone who would pull them back into the familiar patterns of conflict? Could she handle the divergence before they had even begun to rebuild their bond? As she turned the doorknob, a rush of conflicting thoughts clouded her mind.
Regaining control over her life, and now Lisa's, was paramount. But how would she hold on to that control if an unwelcome figure arrived, eager to exploit their vulnerabilities? When she swung the door open, it revealed a package delivery, not that dramatic face she had conjured in her mind. Relief washed over her, though not without a twinge of annoyance at how much her imagination had dictated her feelings. She retrieved the box, turning back to find Lisa watching, a mixture of relief and curiosity dancing in her eyes. "Just a delivery," Martha said, setting it down on the counter, attempting to segue back into their conversation, but the moment felt stalled. "Are we going to talk about that?" Lisa asked, pointing to the unopened package. "Yeah, eventually." The tension in Martha's voice betrayed her ongoing struggle with uncertainty. She wanted to return to their earlier revelations, but felt the weight of the world, the expectations, doubts, and unresolved issues bearing down on her from every angle. Instead of accepting defeat, Martha breathed deeply, willing herself to remain present. "Let's unpack it. Maybe it holds something more." As they poked through the box, they uncovered an assortment of kitchen gadgets, items Martha had ordered, trying to make cooking fun again in an effort to meet Lisa halfway. A colorful spiralizer, a set of delicate measuring spoons, and an elaborate recipe book filled with enticing pictures. "Wow, you really are serious about this," Lisa remarked, her tone lightening as she examined the items. Martha noted Lisa's interest and couldn't help but smile. "It's about what we can create together. I want to make cooking a project we enjoy." With a little trepidation, she continued, "Would you want to try a recipe together this week? Something that isn't fixed and allows us to connect?" Lisa considered the suggestion, and after a moment's pause, she nodded again. "Yeah, I think I'd like that, but only if you promise we can pick it out together." Martha's heart soared with optimism at the prospect. This was not just about cooking, it was about their collaborative journey toward rediscovering each other. However, an awareness lingered at the edges of her thoughts. She had to keep confronting her impulses to control, to drive decisions without consultation. "Absolutely. Together. I want it to be your choice," Martha affirmed, her resolve reinforced with sincerity. As they rifled through the colorful gadgets, attention dissipated, replaced by an eagerness to explore this avenue of growth. They were venturing into uncharted territory, which inevitably sparked a sense of excitement woven with apprehension. But just as they began to chart their course, the reality of their fractured history loomed, a constant reminder of what lay beneath the surface. The transformation would continue to require effort, openness, and the courage to face difficult emotions.
What if their next conversation exposed unresolved feelings that clawed at the edges of newfound hope? Would they remain steadfast in their desire to mend, or would old habits rear back, eager to reclaim their former roles? Martha felt the heaviness settle in her chest again, alongside the flickers of enthusiasm and reawakening connection. How would she ensure that they could navigate the twists of emotional terrain in tandem rather than alone? Reaching for the recipe book, she whispered a silent pledge to pursue this path alongside Lisa, ready to unearth more than just culinary skills, determined to understand the complexity of their relationship in all its flavors. And so, as they flipped through the pages researching meals,
half-formed questions lingered. Would they manage to stitch their bond back together during the cooking adventure? Or would the remnants of their past come crashing down like spoiling ingredients, threatening the fragile foundations they were finally rebuilding? As the days went by, excitement and trepidation danced together in Martha's heart. She and Lisa had chosen a recipe for a vibrant vegetable stir-fry, embracing colors and flavors that honored both health and nostalgia. Martha recalled childhood moments spent cooking beside her mother. It was time to reclaim that joy. But even as the ingredients prepped, shadows of doubt chased her. Would this meal ignite genuine connection, or would it unravel the newly forged threads of trust? On the day of their culinary adventure, the kitchen buzzed with energy. The colorful vegetables danced in their bowls, waiting to be transformed. As they cut, diced, and sautéed, laughter and casual stories broke the ice. Yet Martha couldn't shake the feeling that deeper discussions loomed on the horizon. She sensed fragile emotions winding through their shared experience, threads that could either bind them tighter or unravel under close examination. "Remember how Grandma always said to taste as you go?" Martha prompted, gently nudging them back into the realm of connection. Lisa nodded, a flicker of warmth spreading across her face. "I do. I never understood why until now." This simple lesson held precious wisdom. Progress required vulnerability, trust, and contributions from both sides. It was an evolving recipe, just like their relationship. As they added soy sauce and sesame oil, Martha marveled at the power of shaping flavors and memories harmoniously. When they finally sat down at the table, plates piled high with the steaming stir-fry, she watched Lisa take a cautious bite. Would this meal speak of their trauma or healing? Hope pulsed brightly in her chest. This was an opportunity to turn their traditionally fraught dynamic into something nourishing and supportive. Not bad," Lisa cautiously smiled, eyes brightening over her dish. "Surprising, actually." The small triumph lifted Martha's spirits. "What do you mean by surprising?"
she asked, encouraging more openness, more interaction. "I guess I didn't expect, love to taste like this." Lisa's gaze softened, and Martha felt the richness of honesty drenching the moment, enveloping them in a warm cocoon. "Let's keep that flavor alive then," Martha replied, her own voice steady with newfound certainty. "You can choose future recipes and show me what you love. Let's keep this going." Asking for Lisa's input felt revolutionary. The shift toward collaboration ignited a blazing connection they had both craved. Over the next weeks, their cooking sessions flourished into a cherished routine. They experimented with family favorites reimagined into healthier versions: skirt steak marinades seasoned with fresh herbs, lean turkey stuffed bell peppers, and even old-fashioned apple pie with whole grain crust and reduced sugar. Each session stirred laughter and vulnerability, allowing their walls of misunderstanding to dissolve bit by bit. Martha found herself not only rediscovering her love for cooking, but also for her daughter. As they prepared meals, they shared cravings and preferences, forging an understanding about how food could encapsulate emotion rather than just nostalgia. Each culinary experiment was a dance of trust, a beacon illuminating the path through their tumultuous past. But just as the transformation began to solidify, an unexpected storm erupted on the horizon. An impending family gathering, one that threatened to unearth old dynamics and the specters of resistance. Over dinner, Thomas announced that they would host the entire family to celebrate Martha's birthday. Unbeknownst to everyone, this gathering felt like a crescendo of all her fears, a test of whether they could hold on to their new path amidst past traditions. The realization loomed. Would they embrace the changes she had initiated, or would they resist and push for the familiar? Martha understood the stakes were high. She had woven connections, but feared they could unravel at any moment under scrutiny. Days before the gathering, her anxiety mounted. She envisioned herself under the weight of expectations and her family's bewilderment toward her culinary quest. Would they reject the healthier options? Would they cling to the past, dismissing her efforts as simply stubbornness or a fad? As the day approached, Martha fortified herself with purpose. She would not retreat. She would demonstrate the vitality of change and encourage her family to step out of their comfort zones, not just for a birthday celebration, but for a legacy of health and joy that could endure for generations. As the guests arrived, the familiar chatter enveloped her, weaving in and out like a comforting lullaby. With a heart both anxious and full of hope, she revealed the spread she had meticulously prepared, a vibrant table filled with dishes reflecting the balance of old and new.
The golden glazed chicken, quinoa salad, and roasted seasonal vegetables heralded her growth while inviting connection. "Martha, "What happened to the barbecue?" one of her aunts asked incredulously, disbelief coloring her tone. As the question dangled like an unanswered prayer, Martha sensed her heart racing, but she steadied herself. "I wanted to share something different this year, something that honors our traditions while embracing new possibilities," she began, firm yet gentle. To her surprise, Thomas chimed in. "Yeah, we've thankfully evolved. Mom's shown us how we can enjoy our favorites while being healthier. I think you'll enjoy it too." The consensus ripple spread through the room, wavering between hope and skepticism. Conversations sprang up, laughter filled the corners, and as forks clinked against plates, Martha felt the familiar warmth weave its way through her. She approached each family member, extending invitations to delve into the flavors. "Try this," she called as she motioned to the roasted Brussels sprouts. "I promise you won't regret it." As the evening unfurled, it became a tapestry threaded with acceptance. Her sister Lisa engaged with their mother, laughter spilling as they reminisced about past meals with all their accompanying flourishes, a joyful melding of tradition into the present. What began as a fight for change transformed into an embrace of innovation. Questions turned into acceptance, and a growing excitement unwrapped in their laughter. Eventually, the meal concluded, plates emptied, and the atmosphere felt light and vibrant. Martha surveyed her family, a wave of gratitude swelling within her. They had crossed a bridge paved with love, each step revealing the potential for connection even amidst uncertainty, the ultimate achievement by her measure. With this newfound legacy beginning to sprout, Martha felt an overwhelming sense of hope. She had grown immensely through this journey of culinary exploration, confronting barriers and restructuring familial ties. No longer burdened by expectations, she had proven to herself that transformation is possible, one carefully crafted meal at a time. As the last guest departed, Martha reveled in a renewed confidence, aware that her path would continue. Each day bore the chance for growth and evolution, within herself, with her family, and the experiences they would share. She had ushered in a new chapter, binding her loved ones' past with the anticipation of their future. This was not just the end of the road, but the beginning of a vibrant new story, one filled with connection, celebration, and legacy. As Martha climbed into bed that night, she felt a surge of fulfillment wash over her. She had indeed reshaped her life. Isn't it beautiful to blossom in the joyous bloom of life, forged from vulnerability and love? In that shining moment, she knew with certainty she had truly succeeded. Now it's your turn.
If you found inspiration in this story of transformation, you need to subscribe now to our channel to catch the next exclusive emotional journeys. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference in sharing these impactful narratives. Comment below with your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear your thoughts. And remember, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share the light of personal overcoming stories.